Now, in the real world, or should I say our world, because that is a highly subjective term, we do know that those who consider themselves to be our ruling elite do fear more than anything else that one day we will wake up. Let's hear it in their own words.
The second could threaten our global preponderance, our global strategic preponderance. First proposition. I'm deeply troubled that a very vague, emotionally stated, semi-theologically defined diagnosis of the central global menace is obscuring our national ability to comprehend the historically unprecedented challenge which is being posed in our time by a massive global political awakening, and thus is obstructing our ability to deal effectively with the global political turmoil that this awakening is generating.
We're then treated to what I feel may be the longest fight scene in movie history. I have to admit, the first couple of times I saw this movie, I couldn't figure out why this fight scene just dragged on and on and on and on. And then it occurred to me that in a movie of this nature, if the fight scene is dragging on, there's a reason for it. What the fight scene represents is that when we wake up, the first people we inevitably turn to are those closest to us. And those closest to us are the ones that represent our greatest struggle to convince people, because those closest to us are the most resistant. It's a natural ego-based reaction because they don't somehow want you to think you're better than them because you know information that they don't. And everybody likes to think that they're not ignorant and that they are informed. Do you remember the first time you talked to your family about vaccinations or fluoride? You get dismissed, called a raving lunatic. Be assured that this would not be going on without them being aware. Or be told, no, this could never be happening because nobody would let this happen. You get fought. It's a struggle. And that's what this fight represents. Now, those of you who watch television may think this fight looks somewhat familiar. And if your suspicion is on having seen a certain episode of South Park, you would be correct.
Put on your hat! Come on! Put it on!
I'm giving you a choice. Either put on these glasses or start eating that trash can.
Timmy?
Not this year.
Not this year. Timmy.
Okay. Come on. Come on.
Kabod! Kabod! Hey, bud.
I don't want to fight. Come on. I don't want to fight. Stop. No!
No!
I wonder what the South Park guys have to say about this.
The actual fight, where they're in the back lot and they're fighting, was the fight sequence from, what's that movie, They Live?
Yeah.
So we took the fight sequence where, damn, what's the wrestler's name? Roddy Piper. And that other dude, that black dude, they have this knockdown, drag-out fight in this alley in They Live.
We actually animated to that soundtrack. So
Yeah.
for a while, before we did it, put our own sounds in, it was like Timmy and Jimmy fighting, but it was the sound, the grunts
From
of
They Live.
Roddy Piper, the music and all that.
Yeah.
But,
It's a great fight sequence in They Live. They Live
Yeah.
could have been it's a pretty great movie. But
Yeah.
That was a little suspicious, don't you think? The way they kind of closed that and stopped talking about the movie?
I don't know, what else is in this episode? A cripple fight? And then...
That's really about it. That's the
think
most
that's all-
interesting stuff about that. We could babble on, but it would really be about what we're doing.
I think we should
today.
just move on to our
We
next
should talk about what we're
commentary
doing
mini.
today. Actually, it's Friday right now, and we're doing an episode of South Park where
Do these guys know something that they don't want to say? I do recall them having an episode where they talked about 9/11. Now, if I recall correctly, this episode was brought to us by the same team responsible for another episode, which featured a child saying,
Oh, hi, Stanley. Look, I'm buying you some more all-natural toothpaste.
You mean the stuff that tastes like ass and doesn't fight cavities?
That's right.
taking that into consideration, and also that they had an all-seeing eye pyramid, and in the all too on-the-mark and synchromistic episode about terrorists attacking Imagination Land. This leads me to conclude that the Parker Stone team are controlled disinformation agents, and that may not sound so preposterous considering that ever since that episode in question went out, many rational, intelligent, yet trendy people are quick to dismiss
Anybody who thinks 9/11 was a conspiracy is a retard.
seeing how they continue to push this false agenda of how anti-Semitism is a growing problem in America, which, by the way, is the same agenda as the ADL. We have to entertain the possibility that they are Zionist shills. Or the final two options, which would be that they're just as dumb as the rest of us and are mindless repeaters of whatever they see on the television. And the final one, which is that they're actually getting away with all they can, but they're still corporate men because they have to work under Viacom and are therefore told what to do. Which option? I leave for you to decide. Whatever you may think of the 911 Truth Movement, you have to admit that it is responsible for a lot of people waking up. And I believe that awakening extends to well beyond 911. Which I still have yet to decide was intentional or an unintentional consequence of that action. Some of you may now be asking, what on earth does this film have to do with 9/11? Well, as you can see from the clip, nothing and everything. Back to the movie, we find our main characters sitting in a hotel discussing their world. And this is the most important dialogue of the entire movie.
A long time ago, things were different, man.
Oh, Daddy took me down to the river, kicked my ass, told me about the power and the glory. I was saved. He changed when I was little. Turned mean, started tearing at me. So I ran away when I was 13. Tried to cut me once. Big old razor blade. Held it up against my throat. I said, Daddy, please. Just kept moving it back and forth. Like he was sawing down a little tree.
Wow. That has to be among the best pieces of dialogue I've ever heard in any movie. Piper's not talking about his daddy. What he's talking about is Freud's big daddy, i.e. the government or whatever system of control you have in your life, whatever is the biggest influence on who you are and what you're allowed to say or do. You have to critically analyze what he's saying. So in essence, his daddy was, at first, the Catholic Church, took him down by the river, showed him the power and the glory. What did the church do for a good millennia? It dazzled us with heaven or damned us into hell. It kept us illiterate and ignorant while it retained all the knowledge within its own hierarchy. It kept us focused on some rewarded afterlife versus allowing us to stop and smell the roses in this one. But then Daddy got mean. The game of control switched to one of war. We were pitted against each other in useless, unnecessary, cruel, barbarous wars.
Wow. That looks completely different when you're in the middle of it than it does to the generals up on the hill.
And the age of industrialization came, and we just became more and more efficient at killing each other. And Daddy just kept taking that razor blade back and forth across our throats. World War I, then World War II. Did anything change? No, nothing at all.
Next week, we leave for the front. The object will be to kill as many Frenchmen as possible. Naturally, they are going to try and kill as many Russians as possible. If we kill more Frenchmen, we win. If they kill more Russians, they win.
What do we win?
Read up about what really happened in World War I, the real causes of World War II, the real outcomes, and it'll be quite different from what you were taught in school.
I got news for him. There's gonna be hell to pay. 'Cause I ain't Daddy's little boy no more.
Again, what an amazing, aware thing to say. We've grown up now, Daddy. We don't need you anymore. As we said earlier, what is it that the elites fear more than anything else in the world?
A massive global political awakening.